As the Coachella Valley continues to grow as an entertainment and cultural empire in the California desert cities, Mutual 111 is your go-to for local and regional arts, literature, music, special events, and theater. From the Mutual Broadcasting System studios in Palm Springs, it's The Desert Scene with Bonnie G.
And welcome to The Desert Scene. Happy to have you here, and very happy to welcome to the show Mr. Michael Kraft, who's a friend of mine, and he's a local author and has written 19 novels, won a bunch of awards, and he has a new one out called Desert Deadline. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Good morning, Bonnie. I'm great. How are you today?
Good, and I just finished it a couple hours ago. Finished the book. I've been reading it this whole week. I loved it. So tell people, it's another in the Dante and Jazz series. So tell us a little bit about it.
Well, this is the second installment. The series began last year with Desert Getaway, which actually proved to be a really auspicious beginning because earlier this year in the spring, that book was named a finalist for the Helen... wait a minute, I'm blanking it right now. A finalist for the Lillian Jackson Braun Award through the Mystery Writers of America, the people who do the Edgars. So that was a fairly big deal.
Yeah.
It was named as one of only five cozy mysteries for the year to be singled out for that. I didn't win it, but as they say, it's a great honor to be nominated.
Absolutely. Oh, sure. There's a lot of authors who would have loved to have been nominated, I'm sure. Yeah.
And that novel established my two main characters, Dante O'Donnell and Jazz Friendly, as sort of an unlikely crime-solving pair set in the Palm Springs area. And so it was very clear that there was the need to continue the series. So now we have Desert Deadline, which was just published a month or so ago. And I'm delighted to hear that you've not only read it, but you were finishing it. The last message I got from you said that you had 30 pages to go.
I just finished it this morning. I said, I've been reading it all weekend. I said, I got to finish the book before I talk to Michael. I really enjoyed it very much. And of course, it's always fun to read a book that is set in your local area, in the places, restaurants. And I know some of the names were fictional, but Idlewild and other places that you can picture where they are because it's local. Yep. So I have to ask you about your characters. So let's say we'll start with Dante and Jazz. Are your characters sometimes based on sort of combinations of people that you actually know, or do you just create them completely from scratch in your mind?
Well, it's a little bit of both, Bonnie. I mean, I often tell people that every character I write has a bit of me in it.
Okay.
but no single character is me. And by the same token, I mean, a novel, especially a mystery novel, by its nature has a lot of characters.
Yes.
There's a very large cast. And it's safe to say that, every character I write is drawn from bits and pieces of people I know, just because that's what writers do. I mean, you call upon your whole life experience to create characters, and though, you would like to think that you're just spinning them out of nothing. It's just the brilliance of your imagination. In fact, there's always a lot of influence and a lot of memories involved of things that you recall about people and their quirks. Quirks are important.
Yes. Yes.
And I mean, I try, studiously, of course, not to write identifiable people.
Right.
Because, that could get you into all kinds of trouble, especially in a murder mystery.
Yeah. So want to tell people just a little bit of sketch of the plot here, just a little bit?
Yes, Dante, half of the team, and Dante is the narrator of the book. So you hear the whole story as he would tell it to you. Is in his early 50s. He's a gay man. He's had some troubles in his life at the personal level, so in a way he's starting over. And he's ended up as a concierge for a vacation rental agency in Palm Springs. And this tends to bring him into contact with a whole variety of people who tend to bring along with them, plenty of baggage of the messed up variety.
Okay.
And in this latest installment, it's a big deal that Maud Mauvet is coming to town. She's a renowned writer of romance novels, and this is an area that he knows nothing about. But it seems everyone else in the world is just crazy for Maud Mauvet. Things turn out to be not exactly as they seem, not exactly what he was led to believe, and there is a murder early on in the book, and it falls to him and to Jazz Friendly, who is let me get this correct, she's a black straight woman in her 30s. So on the surface, she and Dante seem to have nothing in common, but they've discovered common ground, and they've sort of partnered up on a time to time basis to get together to solve perplexing mysteries.
Yes. And stories, like for instance, when you did the previous novel, did you already have this story kind of percolating in the back of your mind? If I continue with the series, here's the next story I'm going to tell.
I don't recall at what point I figured out the nugget of the current plot. I mean, it surely was somewhere, toward the end of the process of putting the first book away. But I didn't really focus on it until that first book was published. And right now, as a matter of fact, I'm going through the exact same process with what will be the third book in the series. I don't have a title for it yet, but I know what it's about, and I have it outlined, and I've been drafting it. And in fact, I was working on it 10 minutes before picking up the phone to talk to you this morning, Bonnie. So that story's very much in my mind right now, and I'm about 100 pages into it.
That brings me to another question, which I may have asked you before. Are you someone who says, all right, every day tomorrow I'm going to sit down, I'm writing from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., or do you just sort of sit down and write when the mood strikes you?
Well, that's an interesting question, and you'd be surprised how often people ask me that. And you have a picture, in your mind's eye of a novelist just at the keyboard pounding it out. And I mean, and that's really what. That phase of the project is what I refer to as drafting, actually getting the words on the page for the first time. But there's a lot of work involved besides that, in the planning of it in the beginning, and then in the revision of it afterward. And it's only, and I do work on something related to my writing every day, probably 7 days a week. But then when it comes to the draft, which is the really, work-intensive, nose to the grindstone period of getting those 80,000 words on paper, then yes, I really do stick to it. While I'm drafting a novel, which usually takes me 2 to 3 months, I do work on it 7 days a week. I get started with it as early as I'm ready to in the morning, break for lunch, then go back to it. But I would say in general, I'll spend perhaps 4 hours a day actually writing. That may not sound like a lot, but at least I have found that the writing is a very energy-consuming experience. Yes. I mean, you're just sitting at your desk, but boy, it's mentally exhausting.
Right.
And so, after 4 hours of it, I'm done.
I can imagine. That's a long time.
I know better not to force it after that. So,
as far as the series, now you had a previous series. Do you have in your mind that if I'm going to do a series, it's going to be 3, and then I'm going to quit and move on to something? Or is it, if the next one's successful, that this could go on till you don't know when? I mean, end up with 10 in a series?
Well, my first mystery series, the Mark Manning series, that started like way back in the late 90s. That went on for 7 books.
Okay.
I don't think I would ever contemplate doing that long of a series again. Readers really enjoy them. But I mean, as a writer, it wears thin
After a while. Oh, yeah, I could see that.
And at this point, with the Dante and Jazz series, I'm sure there will be at least 3 because I'm working on the 3rd one now. And after that, I'll reassess. Do I want it to continue, or is it time for something else? That's the beauty of writing. It's purely creative, and you're always looking for that next horizon. But I'm really kind of jazzed, if I could use the expression, about the next book because it's sort of a personal milestone for me. It will be my 20th novel.
Wow. Yeah.
And
that's
maybe
impressive.
then I'll just sit back and take a little breath,
So what advice would you give young writers out there, someone who's sitting down and thinking, I'm working on my first novel. What advice would you give other writers?
Well, I mean, they always say you have to learn to read before you can learn to write.
Yeah.
So if there's a particular genre or style of fiction that appeals to you, definitely, read what's out there, or, read what's popular now, read what you like, and try to read it analytically in terms of figuring out how did the writer put this together. I mean, because, eventually you can't just sit down one day and decide, okay, I'm going to write a 300-page manuscript. I mean,
No.
I mean, some people who call themselves pantsers because they write by the seat of their pants will do that, but it's not in my nature at all. I'm a planner, not a pantser, and I do tend to outline just because that seems to work so well with the mechanics of a mystery novel, which has a very complicated plot.
Yeah. So if people wanted to...
and then the other...
Go ahead.
Yes, the other bit of advice is, seek out the company of other writers, whether it be, through an organization such as the Palm Springs Writers Guild, or, whether it means taking a course in creative writing where you're doing your writing in a workshop and you're critiquing each other.
Yeah.
That's a tremendous help.
Yeah. So if people wanted to purchase your books, can they get them through your website or local bookstores, or where can they get them?
Yes, I know that several local bookstores have it. But Amazon has everything. And if you go to my website, michaelkraft.com, that's Kraft with a C, there are links that can take you to the appropriate pages for hardcover, paperback, or Kindle. It's available in all 3 editions right now.
Excellent. Well, Michael, congratulations once again. You hit it out of the park. I would really encourage
Thank you, Bonnie.
Desert Deadline. It was a great read, really fun, really interesting, great characters with Dante and Jazz and a lot of other characters. And mentioning a lot of local spots, Idlewild, et cetera, is really fun to kind of feel like you're sort of part of the story. So congratulations, best of luck to you, and thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bonnie. I had a great time.
Super. Have a great day. And we will talk to the rest of you on the Desert Scene the next time.
Join us again for the Desert Scene with Bonnie G. from Mutual 111. Be sure to visit thedesertscene.com for more show information and mutual111.com for our full library of episodes.